let's go for it.
You want to stay?
Good. I'm just saying that if you missed the far here, yeah.
Why did you bring it up?
Can
Why did you invite me?
can I just come in,
I
please?
don't have permission.
Councillors, we're starting the meeting. Good evening. Welcome to Crawley Borough Council's Planning Committee meeting. I'm Councillor Pritchard, Chair of the committee. There are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in the event of a fire alarm, please leave the building via the spiral staircase and the main entrance. Once outside, turn left and go to the fire assembly point on Exchange Road. If you are unable to use the stairs, you will be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. Due to technical issues, this meeting is not being live streamed, but it is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Council's YouTube page. Please note that the Council is a data controller under the Data Protection Act. Data collected during the recording will be retained in accordance with the Council's published retention policy. Anyone seated in the public gallery should be aware that they may be filmed by the automated camera system and their image may be captured. Therefore, by entering the meeting room, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting or training purposes. Councillors are asked to take note of what is displayed on the screens in the room as they show what is being recorded. Please request to speak as usual by raising your hand. When I call on you to speak, please press the button on the microphone with a face on it and it will light up green when you are live. As we've had a later start time this evening, I would like to highlight that there is scope for us to move a procedural motion to extend the meeting past the guillotine if required. I have spoken with officers, we don't think that will be required, but just in case. The meeting agenda is available on the Council website. Around the tables are the committee members who will be taking decisions on the items before them. Officers of the Council are also in attendance, and I invite them to introduce themselves now, starting with the gentleman on my right.
Good evening, Siraj Chowdhury, Head of Governance, People and Performance.
Good evening, I'm Jess Tamplin, Democratic Services Officer.
Good evening, I'm Mark Robinson, Principal Planning Officer.
Good evening, I'm Val Cheeseman, Principal Planning Officer.
Okay, and for the benefit of committee members, I've had some feedback that there is some discussions happening between councillors that are not on microphone and could interrupt the meeting. So if I can ask you to speak, raise your hand to speak and speak to the entire room if you've got a comment to make. Okay, are there any apologies for absence? I have apologies from Councillor Chariton.
I have apologies from Councillor Josh Bonds.
Okay, we will now take items 2 and 3 together. I will call upon committee members to declare any interests or lobbying. Please also declare if you have visited any of the sites. Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any interest to declare. I have visited the sites for agenda item 5, 6 and 7, and I have been lobbied on agenda item 7.
Councillor Jaggard.
Good evening. I've no interest to declare and I've not been lobbied, and I have visited the item number 5, County Oak, and number 7, Gales Drive.
Councillor Kieran Khan.
Hello and good evening everyone. I have not been lobbied on any of the items. I don't have any personal interest in any of the items, and yeah, I don't have anything to declare. Oh, and I have not visited the sites.
Can you turn your mic off, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Yasmin Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any interest to declare. I've not been lobbied and I've not visited any sites. Thank you.
Councillor Mullins.
Thank you. I have no interest to declare. I haven't been lobbied and I haven't visited any of the sites.
Councillor Magali.
Good evening. I have no interest to declare. I've not been lobbied and I've visited site 5 and 7.
Councillor Nawaz.
Thanks, Chair. I have no personal interest to declare, and I have visited County Oak, which is item 5, and also Gales Drive, which is item 7. And I've been lobbied for item 7 as well. And it's also happened to be in my ward. Thank you. Three Bridges.
Okay, and for myself, I have not been lobbied on any of the applications. I have no interests. I have been a regular visitor to the County Oak site over many years, but I have not visited the site since reading about this application and not in relation to this application. Now we come to the minutes of the last meeting held on the 6th of March 2024. Does the committee agree that the minutes are an accurate record of that meeting?
Agreed.
We now move on to agenda item 5, the CR 2023-0314 FUL County Oak Retail Park, units 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, 31, 3BCD and 4B. Can I ask the officer to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. I'd first just like to start by saying that there's a revision to the drawing numbers, and that drawing number 11431-L001 is revision D rather than revision C. It doesn't make a material difference to what's been presented. It's just that we've had the floor figures updated from square feet to square metres. We don't accept imperial measurements. So I'm not going to go into a great deal of description of the site. I think everybody knows County Oak quite well as a major retail park that we have in sort of Manor Royal. The application itself is effectively to rationalise the number of existing permissions that apply to the site to give one overall planning permission for the unit, for the units that we've got there, excluding the cafe unit, which is next to the entrance in the car park. The application also seeks to allow the use of the 2,507 square metres of unrestricted floor space at units, I think 2B and 2C, to be used potentially across any of the units in County Oak. There is no overall increase in the floor space of the units here. There are no alterations to the parking arrangements, the access, or any other alterations materially to the buildings. This application is about changing the controls that exist across the site as it stands at the moment. So the principle of this is to reapply the conditions from the previous permissions that are still relevant. Now, this includes things such as ensuring the parking is retained, includes other things such as individual restrictions on the use of the floor space of particular units where we've had historical changes, including, for example, restrictions on how floor space can be used, where cafes can be, controls over things such as where there's a bird hazard management plan, those sorts of things. And it also includes additional conditions to replicate some of the previous controls that we had. So there are restrictions on the floor space that can be used on the other units and making sure it isn't for anything except for confectionery retailing. And there is a condition to restrict the overall use of the units to the retail use within Class E, rather than allowing an open E use, which would allow various different other uses such as offices, potentially medical centres, just to ensure that the council have some control over how the units are used, both because of both issues with parking and about the viability of retail both in the town centre and the park itself. So, as the proposal would not result in increased parking, a highway impact could already occur, wouldn't increase the floor space that could be used for non-retailing uses over which already has permission, within the group of buildings itself, it's not considered that the proposal would have any impacts on parking, highway safety or highway capacity. As I say, there's no additional floor space, no material changes of use that could not already be achieved within the building that's got the permission at the moment. It's just allowing it to potentially move to other units. So on the basis that it wouldn't fundamentally change anything about the unit, we'd not considered there would be any issues in relation to additional water being used either. So it's considered it would be water neutral. This was subject to consultation with Natural England. The other restrictions that would be reimposed are to protect, for example, residents from maybe having inappropriate access points and making sure that the delivery arrangements and things like that are kept. I'm going to keep this quite short. The recommendation therefore picks up on the amended conditions that were recommended, the relevant conditions that would still need to be applied. One of the primary ones being the original condition 14 from the permission in 1986, the outline about the restrictions of sale of food other than confectionery. And it's not considered there would be a wider impact on sort of retailing that would cause any harm to sort of retailing elsewhere in the town. And with that in mind, with the rationalisation of the existing permission and subject to the consultation with Natural England, the application is recommended for permission as set out in here, so delegated to the Head of Economy and Planning, subject to that consultation. Thank you.
So to be clear, the recommendation, not according to the agenda, but is to delegate the permission to the Head of Economy as in the report. The report doesn't match the agenda front page, so it's to delegate to the Head of Planning and Economy and Planning. Okay, we will now. There is one person registered to speak in regard to this item. Would Charlotte Williams please come up? When you get to the table, there's a microphone. If you press the icon with a person and it should light up. That's fantastic. That's switched on. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Committee. My name is Charlotte Williams and I'm the agent working on behalf of the applicant. The purpose of the application is to consolidate the existing planning permissions at County Oak Retail Park, which is a well-established retail destination, already forming part of the local retail hierarchy. The principle of retail on this site is therefore established and accepted. The retail park was first permitted in 1987, and since this approval, there have been numerous subsequent approvals that have resulted in a range of land use controls being imposed. The retail park's planning history is therefore complex. A full application is now being pursued for a consolidated planning permission that will group all the substantive consents across the retail park into a new single baseline consent. This will provide the local planning authority with clarity on what is lawfully permitted at the retail park and its future use, alongside providing the applicant with some flexibility to ensure the long-term success and quality of the retail park, which provides an important retail destination and is a key local employer. It should be highlighted from the outset that this application will not lead to an increase in floor space or increase the quantum or range of goods already permitted to be sold from the retail park. Instead, it simply seeks to consolidate all permissions into a new single planning permission and allows up to 2,507 square metres of floor space that is already permitted for the sale of food and drink to be used flexibly across the retail park. This represents the extent of the application proposals. Based on these discussions, we have worked closely with officers in the consideration of the application before you today. A set of planning conditions have been agreed that offer appropriate and enforceable controls across the retail park, but also deliver the flexibility required by the applicant to maintain its long-term success. We therefore fully endorse the officer's recommendation to grant planning permission. In planning terms, although very modest in nature, if approved, this application will assist in securing the long-term occupancy of the retail park, which is in a location acknowledged by local planning policy as forming part of the borough's retail offer. This in turn will retain a need to further job creation. In addition, by allowing the greater flexibility sought by this application, the proposals promote more effective and efficient use of the existing retail floor space in line with government objectives. These benefits are significant and should be given full consideration in the determination of this planning application. Thank you for your time this evening, and I hope you can support your officers in their recommendation.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to the debate. Committee members wishing to speak should raise their hand. The officer will respond to queries one by one. Wait all that time. Councillor Mullins.
Just a really quick thing. They were talking about the retail park overall, so that it's consolidated. At the moment, you have the one cafe in Next. You can buy some grocery items within B&M, and you can also buy some sort of sweets and biscuits and so on, sort of luxury goods in TK Maxx. Does this mean that we have a cap on how much of that is actually to be a part of the shopping area, but therefore it could be swapped around between different shops according to what's suitable, to what suits the management overall of the park?
Yes, I think the answer is B&M currently is unauthorised in terms of their food offer. The cafe in Next is authorised, and that's subject to one of the conditions, and the conditions that applied to that sought to be reapplied to this. And the sale of, say, confectionery and things is already covered by something that's acceptable within the condition that restricts food sales only to confectionery and sweets and things like that. So when the sales of those things are so kind of ancillary, we're not really considering those to be floor space. But the B&M is the example there of where there is floor space being used for unrestricted retailing. So, yeah.
Just going to come back. So, for instance, if B&M decided to close down, another shop along that area could then take over that part of, well, not the same, could actually change a part of their retail, to cover that. Is that what that means, basically? Gives it more flexibility. There is only really one unit at the moment, two B and C, that have a unrestricted retail offer, or are the only ones that aren't subject to restriction over what they can sell. So the idea is that the floor space there could be used more flexibly amongst all of the units. Now, B&M at the moment, their floor space is not in addition to that. That's effectively at the moment there without planning permission. How the owner or whatever wants to use their floor space is going to be an element of them, possibly with us looking at it in terms of enforcement and trying to sort them out, and maybe getting them to comply with that condition that we're recommending in relation to them having a plan. So the condition 3 requires that before the food retailing or the unrestricted retailing of food and drink is in there, they have to actually submit the application, and then we can keep a record of where that floor space is allocated or not, so that we can actually keep a record of making sure it doesn't go over the 2,507 square metres. At the moment, I couldn't tell you how much floor space B&M is using. I'm sorry, my glasses, I can't see people with my glasses, so it was a bit blurred. But hopefully that answers, hopefully that helps. That seems a wise idea, because I've noticed the B&M in the town centre, the Crawley one in County Mail, their food offer seems to be getting more and more of their floor space, so it's obviously a good one.
Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you, Chair. I understand all these use classes are now being rebadged or changed because of the legislation side of things, but Class E actually covers a lot of other things as well nowadays. So I know you're saying there are conditions there which they can't do for food retail and hospitality side, but Class E actually covers that as well. So does that mean allowing them within the same use class use, they will be able to use that in the future?
The reason for condition 2 is to specifically restrict the overall use of the unit to EA, which is retail, so that it isn't able to be used for those other use classes that are now within E, like offices, light industrial, medical centres. I think, is it kind of religious? But it limits it down to the retail rather than being as broad as E-class has been made by the amalgamation of all the... So we're getting back to what the original permissions that were applied to it and the intention of why it was granted, with that restriction to being retail but without those food options.
And last question, why not the cafe at the entrance, which is, I believe, Costa, not included in there? Is there any specific reason for that? It's not part, it never used to be part of the retail park or erected afterwards? What's the reason behind it?
Well, the cafe wasn't part of the original retail park. It has its own planning permission that applies to it. And it wasn't included in the red line by the applicant. So because it's quite small and because of where it's located, not quite as concerned about that anyway as we are about the others. The others have, as the agent has highlighted, we have a very varied planning history, and I'm sorry about the report that has put out quite a few of those different applications. So I've tried to list the relevant applications. There are a considerable number of other applications relating to things such as air conditioning units and things like that we haven't included because they're not relevant to this consideration. And the same applies to the cafe. It's got its own set of conditions and things that apply to it, and they don't need to be reapplied under this either. So we're going to leave that as a kind of sleeping dog, and this is for the main bulk of the units that were granted permission in 1987, plus the addition of what is part of the B&M unit, which was originally, I think, Texas, and was then extended into a larger unit. So.
Okay, do any other comments, colleagues have any questions or comments? Excuse me, let me just put that on mute. Oh, sorry, Councillor Jaggard. Do apologise, I missed your hand there.
I was a little bit slow putting my hand up. Going on to that coffee and retail things, I'm certain, not today when I was there, but when I've been there on other occasions, there's been a little van selling coffees and things. What's that? That's obviously just a van in the car park. How does that, is that there legally or not?
It may be a potential breach, but we'd have to have a look at it. So again, I have to look at the wording of the. Well, we'd have to have a look at it. See, I mean, I couldn't tell off the top of my head whether it is or not. But
next time I see it, I'll take a photo.
Yeah.
Any other colleagues? Okay, all committee members have had the opportunity to speak, so we'll move on to the vote. The recommendation is to delegate the ability to permit to the Head of Economy and Planning. Is there someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Magali. Is there a seconder? Councillor Jaggard. And can I have a show of hands, all those for? That makes 7. All those against? And any abstentions? And 1 abstention. Application CR 2023 0314 FUL, County Oak Retail Park, has been delegated to Head of Economy and Planning, subject to the conditions listed in the report. We move on to agenda item 6, planning application CR 2023 0663 FUL, 149 Rother Crescent, Gossops Green, Crawley. Can the planning officer please introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. This is a Crawley Borough Council application, and it's for a single-storey flat roof rear extension on property in Rother Crescent. So it's on the north side of the road, and you can see the pedestrian access way through to the car parking area to the rear, which is in Cobner Close. And then the block plan, I'll just draw that up a bit more, shows the extension to the rear, set away from the side boundary with number 151. So this is the existing plans of the existing house. It's a 3-bedroom property at the moment, and then you've got the ground floor arrangement with a store, living room, dining room and kitchen. And the proposal is for a single-storey extension to provide a bedroom. So we can see that here. So remodelled ground floor and then the bedroom with a bathroom in the existing ground floor area. And then in terms of elevations, it's a flat roof construction built of brickwork. And you can also see here where it's set in from the boundary from number 151. And then some photographs of the site. So it's this property here, and you can see the pathway through to the car parking area. You can also see the difference in heights between this property and the next door property at 151. And then this is from the rear. So you can see the pathway here with the maisonette above. This is a property, and then this is the boundary wall with next door and next door's conservatory. And then just another view from the rear, just angled over slightly more, so you can see the boundary fence to the pathway with the undercrofts, the maisonette above, and then on the other side of the path is number 145 with its own conservatory. The size and design of the extension are considered to be appropriate, and the impact on the adjacent neighbours is considered to be acceptable. The recommendation is to grant permission as set out in the agenda. Thank you.
There are no speakers registered in regard to this item, so we will now move on to the debate. Committee members wishing to speak should raise their hand. The officer will respond to queries one by one. Councillor Mullins.
I think you mentioned that this was a Crawley Borough Council application. Is it for a local authority house then to provide better accommodation for a disabled person?
Yes, that's right. It's for a downstairs bedroom for the occupant.
Can I just ask for clarification? The rear extension, does it take the full width of the property? I did notice it, but then I forgot.
Yeah. No, I'll just zoom in. This is probably the best one here. So you can see it, set away from the boundary there.
So it's towards the
It's towards
footpath.
the footpath side,
yep.
set away from the joint boundary with the neighbour.
Thank you. Any other colleagues wish to ask any questions or make any comments? Okay, all committee members have had the opportunity to speak, so we'll move on to the vote. The recommendation is to permit, subject to conditions in the report. Is there is the proposer for this recommendation? Councillor Ali, and a seconder. Councillor Kieran Khan. And can I ask for a show of hands, all those for the proposal? And that's 8-4. Application CR 2023 0663 FUL 149 Rother Crescent, Gossops Green has been given permission subject to the conditions in the report. We will now move on to agenda item 7. Planning application CR 2024 0057 FUL 76 Gales Drive, Three Bridges, Crawley. Please can the planning officer introduce the report?
Sorry, start again. Yeah, this is 76 Gales Drive. This is an application for a 2-storey and single-storey rear and side extension, which is an amendment to an earlier approved scheme, and the changes relate to the ground floor footprint. And I'll be showing both sets of plans so you can see the differences. So this is the location plan. And the extension is to the rear and the side, with Three Bridges Primary School to the side here, and then the adjacent property number 74. And you can see that that row of terrace houses are set closer to the road than the application site. So firstly, in terms of the previous plans and what was approved, it was a ground floor extension, wraparound ground floor extension, with then a first floor to the rear. So it resulted in some single-storey elements in this position here to the side, a little piece projecting to the rear and also to the side. And then those previous elevations. So on the back, this is the 2-storey element set away from the boundary with the neighbour, with then a single-storey bit closest to the neighbour, the little projection at the rear, and then also the projection to the side. And it's this element in this part of the site and to the side that is changing. So moving on to the proposal. So on the ground floor, I'll just zoom in on that. Before it was, this area was projecting out, so this is new here, and also the side extension came down and was close to the chimney, so that's now been set back. The first floor plans are unchanged, so that's a bedroom and ensuite. We do have a comparison plan that shows the difference at ground floor level. So it's this bit in the dark blue that is new here, and then this bit here has been set back, so has been reduced. And basically it's squaring off the corner and then setting back this side element. So in terms of the elevations, on the rear then, so the extension runs across here now rather than a small projection, and then it wraps around the corner, just move that along, but aligns with the original rear wall of the property, doesn't join up to the chimney. This element to the side is unchanged. So I have some photographs. A couple are the existing situation. Just close that down. So this is from the front. This is a property with the entrance to the school next door, and then the next door property with its garage. Then this is taken from the rear, where works of sort of tidying up and starting to begin on site have commenced, hence the...
Excuse me, can I just clarify, is this picture taken during the current application or when it last came before us?
This is a current
photograph.
photograph.
Yeah.
I'm going to show some more, but they're on the previous.
Okay, thank
previously.
you.
So yeah, this is the current position, and so obviously there's building works or clearance going on at the moment. So hence the condition really. So this is the boundary here, boundary fence to the school entrance, and then the boundary to the next door property, number 74. And then these are some photographs taken from last time, and you can see it's a different season. So this is from the rear of number 74. You can just see the rear wall and the rear of its garage. And that's the side wall of the application property, with the extension being in this position here. So you can see the setback between the two properties, and you can also see the views from the garden across next door and to the school buildings in the distance. And then this is from, again from last time, but this is from the side, from looking across from the school premises, and then the side boundary. Whilst the scheme is a significant extension to the dwelling, there is an earlier approved application. The changes from this proposal do represent an improvement in design terms, and square off the corner and make it more of a comprehensive design. But they don't give rise to any new amenity issues for the closest neighbour at number 74, in particular because they're set on the other side of the building. The recommendation is to grant planning permission as set out in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no speakers registered to speak for this item, so we'll now move on to the debate. Committee members wishing to speak should raise their hands. The officer shall respond to queries one by one. Okay, I will... Oh, sorry. Councillor Jaggard, you have to be a bit more forceful.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember speaking on this last time because I felt it was a little bit strange just having the toilet at the rear garden. So in that respect, this is a much better application because it does make the back of the property far more attractive and I think probably easier to use as well with the entrance into the utility area. I just want to clarify really that should this application not be permitted, then the previous application could continue and the work could continue in that respect. It doesn't stop the other plans going ahead, if you see what I mean.
No, both applications, if permitted, either application could be implemented, or if this one was refused, then they could carry on with the first one. So they run together.
Councillor Noaz.
Just very quickly, I know last time I wasn't here, but I think given that now, as officer was explaining, I think this is quite good and comprehensive design, and this is a better, should have been in the first place anyway, but never mind, we are now here. So I think it's reasonably to accept that. It's a good design.
I think the committee last time found the design very unusual and a bit, we did pass comment, if I recall correctly, we did think that's a very odd design, and this to me seems much better. Can I ask, the image that's currently on screen, is that provided by the applicant or generated by us, out of curiosity?
These are the applicant's drawings.
Because there are some really questionable perspective angles on those drawings, but that's fine, that we can see what they mean. So
yeah.
Okay. Does any of my colleagues wish to make any further comment? All the committee members have had the opportunity to speak, so we move on to the vote. The recommendation is to permit. Is there someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Noaz, and seconded by Councillor Mullins. Can I ask for a show of hands, all those for the application? And that's 8-4. Application CR 20240057 FUL 76 Girls Drive, Three Bridges, Crawley, has been given permission subject to the conditions set out in the report. As there is no supplemental agenda, the business of the committee is now concluded. The meeting is now closed at 20:40. Thank you very much everyone for coming.